How do I form an LLC in New York? Let's do the 30-second breakdown. Hal here, he's a proud New Yorker, and he wants to own ABC Tile LLC. What is the bare minimum that he needs? Well, the bare minimum is that he goes to the New York Secretary of State's website, he fills out the form, and he gets an LLC state filing. That's the bare minimum. Now, to open a business bank account and to just generally do business and pay his taxes and whatnot, he's going to need this whole combo here. So he goes to the IRS and he gets an EIN from them, and then he has some legal documents generated that proves that he's the owner of the business. And that is the 30-second breakdown. But if you spend a little bit more time with me, we can go into each one of these elements more deeply, plus get some extra information at the end that's fairly important. So, disclaimer, I am not your lawyer, I am not your CPA, I'm just providing general public information that you can get from anywhere. Now, what is the cost of an LLC? Well, it's $200. The New York Secretary of State charges $200 to facilitate that filing for you. The amount of time it takes is instant. It's not a couple of days, it's not 30 days, it's not a week, it's instant. The moment that you fill out the form and you pay the $200, it is in your email inbox. Now, anybody that is trying to charge you for an expedited fee or a rush fee, that is highway robbery. It is unnecessary. It's instant. BetterLegal provides ours in 1 hour. We do a 1 hour turnaround for New York LLCs. Now, do you own abctile.com? Doesn't matter. If you own the domain name, it's a totally separate system than all of the states in the United States. So you can have ABC Tile LLC in New York, and someone else can own ABC Tile LLC in California, and someone else can own abctile.com. So just because you have the domain name does not mean that you can get the legal name. So you're going to need to just double check and go to Secretary of State's website. That's a little clunky, so you can actually go to our site, and our site at betterlegal.com as a name search, and you can do that search for the state of New York. Now, every state has the requirement of a registered agent. A registered agent, nobody wants to get sued, but it happens. And so the state of New York requires that you have an in-state address that they can send a sheriff or constable to hand you a lawsuit in person. It cannot be a P.O. box. It needs to be somewhere where a person is there during normal business hours. Now, this information is public. So if you don't want people being able to see your home address, you might want to use a third-party registered agent service. They are very plentiful. We are one as well. Every state requires that you check in with them every certain period of time. They just want to make sure that they don't have a growing database of dead companies. And so they're going to require that you check in with them every now and again to make sure. It's really just a filing. It's an annual report or a state compliance filing. And that is just to make sure that they know that you're still an active business. Now, a separate thing, this is going to be after the fact, but just make sure that you are kind of in compliance with your local township or county. Now, you're going to get the LLC from the state, but there might be permit and licenses or taxes that are at the township or county level. So, let's say you're a baker and there's a tax on flour in your county. That's something you might need to know about. So you can check with your local chamber of commerce, and generally they'll know that type of information for you. Finally, New York is one of 2 states that has a publication requirement. And so this means that you basically have to, in the county that you file in, you have to publish a classified ad saying that I'm a new business. And so do some research on that. We actually recommend a company, and I will post that, or if you just use us, we'll recommend that to you. Now, an EIN. This is how you file your taxes. You might be familiar with the concept of a business being like a person. It's kind of a well-known thing, but that business that is a person is going to need a social security number. It's going to be how they pay their taxes to the IRS. And so that's what the employer identification number is. You do not have to be an employer to have an employer identification number. If you are the only person in the business, you still need an employer identification number. This is just, governments make it so difficult with their terminology. I don't know why, but this is your tax ID. It could be an FEIN, a tax ID, a federal tax ID. It's all the same thing. It's just a tax ID. Now, you use this to pay your taxes. You're going to need it to open a bank account because the bank's going to want to know that you're paying your taxes. The money that you're putting in their bank needs to get paid to the IRS, a certain percentage of it. Now, as you start doing business, and get clients, those clients are going to start asking you to fill out a W-9 so they can send you a 1099 at the end of the year. And what this is the IRS has a stipulation that over $600 payment from one business to another needs to be filed with them. And so if a business is going to pay you $600 or more, they're going to require that you fill out this W-9. And if you don't want to put your social security number on that and have everybody you do business with knowing your social security number, you can substitute with an EIN. It's on that form. Instead of putting in social security number, it just says put in your EIN. Now, if you are a sole proprietor and you're just setting up this LLC, you've been in business for a couple of years, and you're just setting up this LLC to protect yourself, you cannot carry over your EIN from your sole proprietorship to your LLC. I'm not going to go into why, you just cannot do it. So you just get a brand new EIN with your brand new LLC. Now, the legal documents for an LLC are called an operating agreement or a company agreement. The purpose of that is to define the managers and members of a company. So in an LLC, you have managers and members. We have a video on this. I'll post that above. But a manager is the operator of a business, and a member is an owner of a business. So these are specific to LLCs. I should say a manager is an operator of an LLC, and a member is an owner of an LLC. So the legal documents prove the ownership of the business. So the state doesn't know who owns the business, but the legal documents do. It also provides the rules of the business. So let's say I own the business 50-50, and I want to bring on a new investor. What are the rules of that? If I get into a fight with my partner that I'm in business with, what are the rules of that? How do we resolve these things? So usually they're 30, 40, 50 page documents because they go over all this stuff, all these gotchas that, what if this happens? What if that happens? So that's the purpose of the legal documents. And really, they're often overlooked. A lot of people just kind of throw them in a drawer, don't sign it. It's really important that when you get these documents from the service that you use, or from your attorney or whoever, that you sign it and you have a copy and all your business partners have a copy. Now, you also want to make sure that it's expandable. I've had discussions with attorneys that charge $1,500 to $3,500, and if it's just a single member, a single owner LLC, it's just me by myself, they will charge me $1,500 to $3,500 to do all of this for me, and they'll just give me a single page operating agreement. And so if I, a month or 2 months down the line, I want to bring Sally in and make Sally a part owner because she buys in, that single page operating agreement is not going to cut anymore. It's not going to be up to snuff. So make sure that the legal documents that are provided to you are expandable. Now, tax election. If you don't do anything, once you are done filing, this is going to be what you get classified as. Now, a lot of people talk about S corps, so we're going to talk about that in a second. But if you don't do anything with the IRS after you form your LLC, if you're going to be a single owner, you'll be a sole proprietor. If you're going to be multiple owners, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, it's a partnership. And what that means is that this is how the IRS classifies you. Now, the IRS is very behind on classifying LLCs. LLCs were actually started in the 70s to 90s. And so they haven't actually created a tax bracket for LLCs. And so you basically just fill out a Schedule C that attaches to your personal taxes. If it's a partnership, same thing. Now, within a certain amount of time, I think it's a couple months after you form the LLC, or the first couple of months of every year. So you can start, you don't do anything, you're taxed as a sole proprietor, and then a couple years later, you're like, you know what, I want to be taxed as an S corp because I talked to my accountant, and my accountant said that this is a good idea. Now, you can do this at the first couple of months of every year. You can reclassify yourself, and it's a form you fill out. And you get to choose whether you want to be an S corp or a C corp. I'm not going to talk about the benefits of that or one way or another, but I do want to let you know that if you don't do anything, this is going to be the group that you're in. And if you want to make that change, it's actually a tax election. We allow you to do that for free after the fact. Now, the next steps after this, banking. it's very difficult sometimes to find a bank that is kind of modern. So we have recommendations for all of these services actually. So banking, you're going to want to make sure that they're not going to charge you, a really high deposit, like that you have to deposit a high dollar amount, or that you're going to get monthly fees for every single month that you're under $3,000. So make sure that the bank is not going to charge you any of these kind of BS fees. Now, a website, we provide one for free through one of our partners, but you can upsell yourself into getting a full custom domain. There's a whole world on that. Payment processing, how are you going to take checks? How are you going to take bank wires, ACH payments, etc.? Bookkeeping. It's basically how you pay your taxes. How do you define what is income? What are your different income streams versus what are your different expenses, and how are those classified? Are they wages? Are they real assets, etc.? Insurance. You might want to check to see if you need insurance. A lot of businesses might not need insurance based on what they are. Some businesses might, so it's a good idea just to double check. And contracts. We provide contracts, common contracts. So things like master services agreement for contractors. But you can check that out in your dashboard if you go with us. But these are all things that a new business might need. And so we have recommendations in the description below, so check that out. Now, to wrap this up, if this video was helpful to you, please like and subscribe. We've got a lot more videos coming out with more information. If you've got questions, comment below and ask. But basically, BetterLegal provides all of this for $2.99. Everything you have here for $2.99 in the state of New York, and we file it within an hour, and we get it back to you within an hour. Nobody else does that. Nobody else in our industry does that. So it's a very affordable price for the service that we offer, and we're constantly adding more things to it. So hopefully this was helpful to you, and I thank you for your time.